Okay, so you can answer questions. And for the record, please identify yourselves and welcome. Thank you for your patience.
My name is Margaret Patterson. I live at 6029 Logston Road. I'm right on the river.
Okay.
I have pictures, if I may address this to you.
Sure. Pictures are good evidence. I'm a visual guy. I like pictures.
These are the 5 sides.
Okay.
This is my home.
Okay.
On the other side, well, actually, this shows the river. The river actually is right alongside of all those 5 sites. This is where
Okay.
May 7th, it rained that entire week.
All right.
His field was right on the river.
Okay. May I keep that, I assume?
I can make a copy. If you like.
Make a copy.
Yes,
I don't want to.
make a copy.
This is a letter I got from Paul Kennedy explaining.
We'll just give it to her and she'll make sure we
What
all.
was
Well,
the-
okay, let her finish and then we'll...
This is what he says is creating the algae on my riverfront.
Okay.
And I have pictures of that as well. He says this little black line seeping into the river,
Okay.
created by what you were just explaining about the swamps. I have a swamp in the background behind my field. It's been there. I've lived there 52 years. It has never grown algae before. I also have water samples that I turned in 2010 on my well. There was no E. coli at that time. In 2010, it was found to have E. coli. I have a very shallow well.
As do I.
Yeah, it goes down to bedrock, and that's the table that the water runs off into the river.
All right. I'll ask our recorder to take copies of this. We'll give this
Okay.
back to you.
Okay.
We'll keep that information to ask questions of... Paul Kennedy was actually the respondent on that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Anything else?
Would you like to see the analytical reports of my waters?
If you'd like to share them with us, we'll certainly keep
And I
them.
also want to show you some pictures of what my riverfront looks like now, which I can't use anymore.
Okay.
How much money did you spend on your water purification system?
About 3,000 to get it started, and now we have to keep it up.
Again, may we take copies of that for our records so we can share that concern with DEQ?
This is my water report in 2002.
Okay.
E. coli was absent. This is my report in 2010, present.
Okay. All right.
And then we had all this system put through and they said it was absent after we put
After you put the systems in place.
systems in place. It's like a science lab in my house.
I'm chuckling not because of your problem. I've had to deal with the same thing.
Okay, we were saying also that no other rivers were having this problem. This is a printout of the Chetco River. They are unhappy in Chetco
Okay.
too. This is, you were talking about the incline of the riverbanks. This is a field that has an incline towards the river. It's almost a misnomer to say that it's a solid. It is not a solid.
It's a liquid.
It is a liquid that I'm on that.
Okay.
This is how my riverbank looks like now. Before, this is my grandson, my great-grandson, playing in the same place. Before, now. We cannot use our riverfront.
It's pretty, anything you're willing to share is, that's,
Yeah.
You can take
pretty powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm a visual guy. That's very
I've got copies
powerful.
of letters.
Commissioners, if you want to give me that, I've got Janet here. We'll make copies of
Okay,
everything.
what are you willing to...
Anything you
The whole
want.
thing?
Well, the whole thing, we're happy to do it, but it might take a
all the
while.
color talk, because if you get some.
Yeah,
color
do it in
pictures
color,
of that,
please.
well, yeah, man, it's-
And here's the statement about Chetco.
that's excess
This
nitrogen.
is just
And we've already-
2017.
That too.
That, no, that,
No,
I
that's
think
already done.
Christie already took
This is
copies of the map.
2016.
Okay.
Okay.
This is the
Here,
same,
this-
same area that my children were playing in before this. I can't use my riverfront anymore.
So we'll copy
Why don't I
everything on this
go
side and all the
copy that?
photos.
Okay.
Okay,
And
sounds
again,
good.
color,
Color,
And this stuff too.
absolutely. Well, I put it in the newspaper, you know, there was an article that Joan Brown wrote,
yeah.
but she didn't put it in color, she put it in black and white. And it doesn't really show.
No, very good, good
Okay.
information. Anything else from,
No, I just am sitting right on the road here and I'm watching those tanker trucks run. I've talked to Paul Kennedy till I'm blue in the face. He tells me it's the seepage from my swamp.
well, the trucks aren't seepage.
No,
so-
but that's what he's saying is creating my algae is seepage from my swamp that's been there 50 plus. I mean, I'm 70. I've lived there 52 years. It's never had algae in that river before. And you're drinking from it.
Well,
Newport, Toledo, SILETZ are all drinking from that river.
all right, good information. Certainly, questions we'll be asking at DEQ. Go ahead, sir, and identify yourself for the record.
Still good morning. My name is John Sullivan. I'm a Logston resident, long time, over 25 years out there. I live right on the river. I can sit in my living room and look at the water. So I monitor it almost hourly. I became concerned approximately 10 years ago with what was transpiring out in our area. I am the longest serving member of the SILETZ Watershed Council, for your information. I have brought this to their attention, and also in the mid-coast. To be perfectly honest with you, we get the biggest runaround that you could ever get in politics every time we approach this subject. It's typical politics in the fact that if you don't acknowledge there's a problem, there isn't a problem. And DEQ, as purported, is supposed to be monitoring this program. Now, I'm used to run cattle. I'm a cattleman. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to maximize their profit with the land they've got. I understand that. What set me off originally was they infringed on my well. 200-foot setback, they put biosolids on land within 150 feet of my well. I furnish water to 3 residents. If that well goes bad, that's 3 people that don't have water. The second thing was the one that was addressed by Lincoln City. That was at my insistence that they made the test. There's all kinds of regulations, but there is no enforcement of the regulations, okay? I contacted Lincoln City when they wanted to apply more biosolids out there. After I observed them putting 32 double tanker truckloads of biosolids on a pasture in 2 days. I said, gee, this looks a little excessive. Are you sure we're not overdoing this? And they said, we don't think we have a problem. I don't want you to have a problem, because if you have a problem, I have a problem. I'm downstream from you towards the river on that rock shelf she's talking about. At my insistence, they did the testing. Now, you must understand that testing is required to be done after you apply every 2 years before you do your 3rd year. Lincoln City had been applying there 14 years and never tested the soil once. There is no enforcement. No one was seeing that they did test the soil. And that is pervasive all through that area. This can go on and on and on, but if I've got the test results from that test, the sad part of it is that they only primarily monitor nitrogen, which they want for the fertilization process. They test it at a 1-foot level and a 2-foot level. If you're using the nitrogen, the grass draws it up and you get rid of it, and that's fine. We're all happy. It turns out that they had almost double the amount of nitrogen 2 feet down than they did 1 foot down, which means it was not being utilized and it was going down on a rock shelf. And by the way, there's a 2-foot minimum depth requirement, and that whole pasture is about 14 inches deep to rock shelf. So the land doesn't meet it. No one is monitoring. And that's the biggest problem we have. There is no monitoring on this system. And I have talked to Paul Kennedy. I've had him on my deck at my house. The problem is this: the cities must get rid of their waste. They have no choice. The farmer wants fertilizer. It's real nice for, he gets free fertilizer delivered and spread. Now, who is supposed to set these boundaries up? You can write them up there all day long in writing, but if no one enforces them, it doesn't make any difference. The people that are setting the stakes out for applications are the landowners themselves. not DEQ and not the city. The landowner wants maximum coverage on his property, so he's fudging all the time. This, I've had meetings, tried to resolve this from a local point of view. I've met with the Toledo City Manager, I've talked to the Toledo City Mayor, I've talked to the Public Works Director in Toledo, I've met with 2 city councilmen, I've met with a Lincoln County Solid Waste Disposal person. I've talked to Lincoln City when they ever had their problems. I tried to come up with a solution that would be acceptable to all. I understand that we all have a problem and we want to get rid of it. So I propose that we put a Class A plant in here in Lincoln County that everybody could bring their biosolids to. They could be processed into a commercial fertilizer and sold safely. I can't get anybody to work together. These cities won't even talk to each other.
I think that's what Lincoln City's doing, so I think. that's
Lincoln
a good
City has
question.
already
Lincoln
converted theirs to dry patties, and they're transporting them to Corvallis and putting in a landfill.
City. Okay, well,
They are not, no, that's not a Class A plant.
okay.
I think Newport may be the only one.
Newport has the only Class A
Class A.
plant, yes.
I think that's right.
And most recently, they're trying to, Newport now wants to go up and put their Class A up there also.
So Wayne, I got a question for you. One of the, and I've been through this and fought clear to the federal government on my own dollar issue and wound up losing. The question is not so many times, it's what's the penalty if you violate the law? You put the law in the book, but you then don't have a penalty that's severe enough to prevent people from doing it. And in the case of a state agency, it's hard to get them penalized, or a federal agency. So it looks like to me, we need to examine what the penalties are to an agency for violation. And then that is something that is a correctable item for us, either at the legislative level, and that will solve the problem and get, when they start to see a penalty that's severe enough, then they'll move toward correction of violations.
I could go on and on there. DEQ is not meeting their obligation in any way. One of the statements was, well, if we're going to put some more permits out, we notify the community for community comment. That is not true. They do not do that.
We'll be asking DEQ some very And again,
I talked with
I'm
Metz.
not trying to cut you off, but we're trying to limit comments to 5 minutes.
Well, I would like a
so
couple more minutes if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I've talked to Paul Kennedy, and he, to my face, I asked him, Paul, what is the problem? Why can't we resolve this? And his answer was funds. They do not have the funds to hire the people to do the monitoring that they're tasked to do. Paul Kennedy lives in Medford. He is a representative for the entire coast of Oregon. You think he can monitor every field out here? I don't think, there is no monitoring taking place. In regards to the previously addressed algae in the river, this has been addressed by DEQ. Just for your information, that the SILETZ River is on the list, DEQ list for contamination. Also, most of this biosolid, not all, but most of the biosolids are put in the upper part of the canyon. You have all these cities, Newport included, drawing their water out of the SILETZ River. We can't even get them to move the biosolids below the water intakes to try to keep safety for the people. You might know that this algae is really caused by excess nitrogen and phosphorus. It gets into the water. Now, the other side of that picture is when that dies, it consumes oxygen. When it consumes oxygen, that's the oxygen the fish need in the river. We're not going to have any fish. We don't have any fish. What happens to some of our monetary inputs around here, such as our fishermen, our tourists, etc.? It infects the entire community. It's not just a few people up in Logston. You're talking about your water source for drinking, and you're talking about your tourism in this county. So you better start looking at it from a bigger perspective. This is not just little Logston. This is the county that's being affected, and it could certainly be a health problem here in the near future. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you for your comments. Obviously, enforcement and the penalties are the biggest concern. Others that would like to address the commissioners? Again, I'll ask you to try to limit your comments to 5 minutes so that we have an opportunity for everyone. Welcome back.
My name's Alan Davis. We've owned land 31 years up Upper Logston Valley. We own timberland, river frontage. And first of all, Mr. Belmont, you only told the half truth. That was stalled for 6 years in court, which would give us a lot of time to figure out new studies, what's going on. You don't want to told the half truth. All right, first of all, here I go. I'm not a very good speaker, but this will interest you, Terry, because it's about the fisheries. Anyway, it's about a little mussel. In the SILETZ River in 1978, they did a study. Carnan and Molman did a study and they found over 100,000 river mussels per 400 meters square, right?
Yep.
All right, they had a meeting in 2001 because concerned citizens. The mussels all disappeared. Fish and Game, we don't have an explanation. They're gone. All right, because the species is so sedentary and sensitive to environmental changes and long-lived, they live up to 100 years old. So
Even older.
oh, even older.
It's
Okay,
one
I
of the
stand
longest
corrected.
living things on animals on the planet.
Okay, I stand corrected. It can be an excellent biological indicator of water quality. Point being, they take nutrients out, contaminants out, and shows our water quality. We didn't listen to them. These little mussels were showing us in 2001 we had a water quality problem. Nobody listened. Second point, the mussels are lazy. They have no way to get upriver. They hook up onto our salmon to their gill slits and their fins, and they take a hitchhike up the river so they can continue their lifespan. All right, now I'm gonna move on to biosolids, give you a little lesson. Ammonia is a colorless gas, nitrogen highly soluble in water. Been used in over 70 years, and oxidation results from it. It's nitrate, and a nitrate comes from it. These have been known to dissolve oxygen in our water, which is not good. We knew this. Mid-Coast River listed failing dissolved oxygen criteria in 2001 by DEQ. They knew about it. The criteria, spawning. Okay. 2004, they knew about the pollutants. Arsenic, cadmium, chromium, copper, lead, mercury, molybdenum, nickel, selenium, and zinc. They knew that was all in our, going through our water, right? All the water we drink. Okay, 2004, the EPA announced, due to pressure by Clean Water Council, it announced there's also, we might regulate it in 2004. There's also found in sewage sludge, biosolids, acetones, beryllium, carbon disulfide, chlorine, there's a list goes on. There's like 15, 16 more. You can copy this if you want to read it. They're still trying to decide whether they should, add that on the list. They haven't. Even though they said it's a potential health hazard to the people, EPA. EPA also said, 2003, we're not going to regulate dioxins. We know it's in the water. Director Nancy Stoner of the EPA. We're not going to we know what dioxins are, right? Agent Orange, stuff like that. Chemical sprays that we spray over our water next to our lands, drains off into our water supply. That's all dioxins. It's toxins, Okay. And it gets even better. They also found radioactive, which is a radioactive form in these solids. So has anybody took a Geiger counter out here and seen how much radioactive is in these fields? Don't think so. That's also in our water, according to the EPA. Okay, now we go on to the SILETZ River. Okay, this is a letter from, let me get this right here, Sherry Stewart from Oregon DEQ. She goes, this is to Alan Midda, the director of the SILETZ water place in SILETZ. He says, we found out you have arsenic, chlorophyll, copper, lead, sedimentation, selenium, zinc. Potential concern is also alkaline, ammonia, chloride, dissolved oxygen, pH, phosphate, and phosphorus. We're all drinking all this. Young. Wonder how many, that's why you have a high rate of cancer in the area? Probably. All right? And that's where they came with that. And problem with pH, I don't know, do you guys know anything about pH? Terry probably does.
I know pH.
Well, when you get up to pH and it starts raising, and we've checked some of the past records, it got up to 8.85. After 9, you just eradicated the species. They're gone forever and never will come back. And there's a record of it. I think it's 2013 or 2003. There's a 3 in there. You can look, it's in the records. And we took a test just yesterday. One up by Logston is 8 point. One down at Twin Bridges was 7. The thing of it is, it's still cold water yet. When this heats up, that stuff's gonna go boom, it's gonna shoot back up. Okay, and here's what I think what's going on right now, the laws that are being violated. We believe laws are being violated since the SILETZ River under, let me find this one, it's a critical act area. It's a critical area set aside by the United States Government Fish and Wildlife. It considers SILETZ water basin critical for the coho life for the cohos. With this, pH is rising, you're gonna kill them off. Then they're gone. And they're gone, and then the mussels and everything else is gone with them. Okay, we believe the Critical Habitat of the Coho Endangered and Threatened Act of 1973 is being violated. We also believe the Substantial History Act of 1996 is also being violated. We also believe the violation of the 1996 Safe Drinking Act is also being violated. And I have been in touch with NOAA, and I will get, and the hero of the story is this little mussel that told us all. And we were too stupid to listen.
Well,
Thank you.
we're listening now.
I
Thank you.
hope so. And you do have the power to stop this immediately, because Washington State did it and stalled it for 6 years in court. So don't tell me you don't have it. Do your research, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Next, and again, for the record, please identify yourself.
My name is Abigail DeYoung, and I'm a local here. I know Terry vaguely. We've met a few times. I've never met the rest of you, so I'm here really to just introduce myself. And me and my husband own a couple of businesses here. He has the Ocean Pulse Surf Shop, and then we started like a charter and an eco tour company. So I have Northwest Eco Tours, and then we do businesses.
Could the audience hold their comments or talk afterward, please, so we can hear Abigail?
I can get closer to the microphone, I guess.
Again, we'll gather all the information, but let's respect the people that are at the podium.
Thank you. So we've got Ocean Pulse, we've got Northwest Eco Tours, and we have all depth charters. And I heard about this biosolids issue just recently, just from a random post I caught on Facebook. But it concerns me a lot, as well as the entire health of the SILETZ watershed, because I don't think that we've been doing this individual species management for a long time, and it doesn't work. And we can see that from coho. So they've been a protected species for how long now? And they're still not a commercial fishery again. And so we have to start addressing the environment and doing conservation for the entire watershed, not just one species or one section of the river or anything. And the SILETZ is, I eat the fish out of there, I feed it to my family, it's really a big problem. Also, the drinking water. And so I have a couple questions for you guys. One, which John answered, which was the financial compensation. I was like, why would farmers want this on their field? Well, it benefits them financially, and they're obviously getting compensated. So that is done. I also wanted to know if there was any kind of DEQ breakdown of the concentration of trace things, and are they even looking for things in biosolids like birth control, prescription drugs, non-prescription drugs? So those things, I just
Go
didn't.
ahead. Amy, I believe, has some answers, but finish with your questions and then we'll get Amy.
I looked at the clean, water breakdown, and for the SILETZ, and it just didn't seem complete to me, like they were looking for enough stuff. So I'd like to, address that. I also have worked for Soil and Water, the Lincoln Soil and Water, and did the water quality testing for a couple years, and I know that the DEQ is seriously underfunded and seriously understaffed, and that data that I was getting, they couldn't even really do anything with it. And we're like, what are you doing with this data? Also, compiling it for 15 years apparently. And then I'm wondering, the DEQ put that robot in the SILETZ that did automatic water testing, and they kind of cut the funding for, the SWCD's water testing program. But do you know where that little robot is? Is it up by the intake for the drinking water on the SILETZ?
I assumed it was above the intake at the water mark, but I would.
It only-
There's some question for DEQ.
There were
Right.
5 spots starting at Moonshine down. My property was, I volunteered to have it tested from on my own property, yeah.
We still don't know what the results were, though.
Right, so that, and then I am sitting here listening to this problem and I'm thinking, well, we need to figure out what to do with these biosolids instead of spreading them on fields. So, I mean, maybe a Class A, sewage processing plant, maybe like a biofuel plant, something could potentially be done with it, because the problem isn't gonna go away, because there's always gonna be human waste. So that's really all I have to say, is just that I'm concerned and I would like to know more, and I think that we should all definitely figure out how to tackle this problem as a community, because it affects my living and my drinking water, so.
So Amy, you indicated you might have some
yeah, you're
information. But
interested
again, I
in-
think these are questions for DEQ, but certainly. And again, I'm not trying to duck the issue, but DEQ is the one that's doing the work and not sharing the information with us, if they're doing the work.
The EPA, here's some information. And the EPA does test biosolids in a research way to see what's in it, so that the EPA is a place to go to find out what they're testing biosolids for and what their results are.
Another underfunded agency. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else?
Is it too late for me to add my name to the
No?
list?
Anyone? Again, I ask you to try to limit your comments to 5 minutes, so we respect each individual's time.
My name's Dave Wilson. I'm a resident out in Logston. That was a real nice presentation that Amy gave. I could probably go through slide by slide and tell you where a lot of that is fake information. The monitoring that they talk about and the soil samples that they talk about, if you go to each one of those communities and ask for those soil samples, you won't get those soil samples. They're probably not being taken. So the other issue, it was brought up earlier, the weather conditions, that these are being applied in August. I sat here over the Mother's Day weekend, 11 straight days, Depot Bay, 2 tanker trucks, probably 6 trips a day for 11 days, spread on the man property up by Moonshine Park. And during that period of time, it rained. So, and last year, they spread up there in the same meadow right next to that. It rained during that period too. Now, right before Depot Bay spread theirs, there's some property that's right next to John Sullivan's house. Toledo spread on that property. It rained. And as we were coming to town today, this is a separate issue, the shrimp carcasses, for some reason, they like to be taken out to the Logston area too and dumped. The same property that Toledo dumped their biosolids on, that's been within, what, 3 weeks, John? The shrimp carcasses are going on that property today. Okay? Some of these application rates that were in Amy's presentation, the application rate is 100 pounds per acre. Okay, on top of that, they're supposed to take into effect the manure that the cattle put on there, or any fertilizer they put on there. That 100 pounds per acre is the maximum that's supposed to be put on that property. Nobody's taking into account what the cattle are putting on there too. The man property, he puts a lot of cattle in there on that property. Okay. The other issue, the algae, John and I just did the river cleanup. That's been probably a couple of weeks ago. We were amazed at the algae in the river. We traveled from Twin Bridges down to SILETZ, and the algae was just, it was amazing. Last year, we traveled that same area, and I don't remember seeing that much algae. Now, I'm not saying that's the biosolids that's doing that. There could be other issues. You know, the weather, climate change could be part of that too. But we can't do anything about the climate change. We might be able to do something about the biosolids. Another slide that Amy showed, they said there was no shallow wells in those areas. Well, I'm here to tell you that there are shallow wells, and they're not coming out of a confined aquifer in that bedrock. Most of those wells are taking their water right off the top of that bedrock. I live right across the road from the Weiskoffer property. And as John said, on that property, the rock layer is pretty close to the surface. Okay, my well is down gradient from that field. So my water's coming right off the top of that rock layer. And I know a lot of those other wells in that area are too. So, that's all I have to say.
Well,
Oh, I do have, this is a letter to the editor that I submitted, but I went over their 300 words, so I had to condense it, but this is my original letter.
thank you. Thank you.
A little bit of the information I just told you.
Well, again, you emphasized that what the regulations say and what reality is seems to be
Yeah, in
a big difference.
you know, in a perfect world, you know, all that stuff would get done, but we do not live in a perfect world.
Right. No, I agree. Anyone else? I say Kayleen.
Good job, Dave. Hi.
For the
Thanks for
record.
listening to me again.
For the record, please
For the
introduce
record, my
yourself.
name's Kayleen Davis, and this is actually my second trip to a commissioner meeting, third trip. We also did the planning meeting before that. Well, as you've heard from lots of people, and I don't think there's much sense for me going back over it, they're not watching it. Nobody. So, and the cities are supposed to be monitoring, but that's really, they're supposed to have grids. Do you think grids of where they spread this? I did a video of them spreading. It's not solids, like John said. It's liquid. It was sprayed. The video is public. It's out there. It's on the Save Our SILETZ page, along with lots of posts. We've had a lot of community response on this. We've had over 3,000 hits. Lots of them shared. Letter Paul Kennedy wrote me. I shared it. And so I'm sorry, Amy, but it was kind of, you know, ironic to me. Most of the things you were reading to us, he wrote to me in a letter. But they didn't really do it. And I told him about the rain, but he didn't seem that concerned. So yeah, I did file a complaint, and I filed 2 complaints so far. The biosolids are on the road. The trucks aren't being cleaned. We've got pictures. So, you know, if the DEQ isn't regulating it, the city's not regulating it. But, you know, out there in Logsdon, I thought we were county. So I thought the county was watching that for us. So that's hence why I've come here, why we've come here. Didn't, you know? I thought it was county. Where's environmental health? You know, I worked for Head Start for years. I had a concern about water and small children were playing in it. City of Toledo wasn't doing anything about it. I called environmental services, got somebody on the phone that day. The next day, instead of, you know, yellow caution tape that 3 and 4 and 5 and 6-year-olds are not reading, they came out and pumped that water out. We need solutions. We need somewhere else to go, but because we don't know what else to do with it, it can't keep coming out the farmland. Howard Weiskoffer is, well, he's elderly, late 80s, early 90s. Here's his first agreement. You know, this was done in 97, I believe. There's others dating back to 94. Once a farmer has a permit, it's good forever. That's what Paul Kennedy told me, good forever. So then he quit dumping on Lincoln City because of the biosolids being spread, correct, John? And the shrimp dumping on the same field. I hear on a field that's his upper field, that field boards us. Nobody's ever contacted us. I can guarantee you that. So Lincoln City quit, not because, you know, they're gonna start, they had to. There was up to 90% saturation rate. So I guess 2 years ago they quit. 2015, Otter Rock started a new one with him. So he has a new permit. He's still going. Shrimp truck's still dumping. Jeff Mann gets a penny a gallon, so from Depot Bay, so he's profited quite well. There is a committee, and it's changed its name lots of times. I think this is now the Mid-Coast Implementation Ready. Local stakeholders, sometimes it's called stakeholders, sometimes it's called shareholders committee. Technical work groups, and now it's called Implementation Ready for the TDML. Well, you know, this committee has changed its names a whole bunch of times, and while the forms are out there publicly, they're not easy to find and they're moving them. So I had a little bit of trouble finding some of them. Maybe they've I know with Head Start. I worked for the courts for about 10 years. We changed ODOT systems a few times. We've changed systems. I know how that is. So then all the paper gets lost and you have to start switching over to a new system. But back in, let's see, 2009 was the last I saw this committee had met, but they didn't reconvene because, well, there were stakeholders that had issues, specific issues. Doesn't say what the specific issues are. Maybe the biosolids, maybe the spraying. From there, okay, this was January 11th, they met again. And then it goes on, and they had some meetings, I guess. And then January 17th, they met again. And you know, the projected development of these TDLs, they seem to keep getting rolled. It started 2014, 2000. Now they were 2017. They were supposed to be done in the summer. Now I see it's 2018. They don't know what else to do with it, and nobody's watching us. I don't want to redo and keep going over this, but we don't have time to keep waiting for these tests. They're out there. They're the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife are doing them. ODF's doing them. I mean, there's different people doing these tests, the DEQ, but I couldn't find their actual site where they have all their tests done, but they're there. Food safety, well, there's a lot of information out there on biosolids and food safety. I'll give you these if you were interested, but there's lots.
Happy to take it.
Okay, I'll go to you in a minute. So we did get supports and more signatures. I'm going to resubmit our request because I think there is. And yeah, they did. After 6 years, they threw that case out. But for 6 years, it wasn't applied. That gives 6 years to figure out something else to do. It can't keep coming to Logston. It's obviously killing the river. We took pictures of the algae yesterday that grew there. I grew up on this river. We moved to this river when I was 12. My husband and I bought our place 27 years ago. We raised our babies our girls on this river. We've taken our grandchildren. We have a great-grandbaby coming. I want to be able to take that great-grandbaby. I want to keep taking our babies there. There was never moss growing in our place. It's there. I have a daughter who doesn't get the heebie-jeebies. She doesn't have any problem with grabbing a cow pie and throwing it for a frisbee. She walks through it. All of a sudden, in a place she's always walked before, she starts jumping and ew, 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 and I'm laughing at her. What's wrong with you? There's this long, stringy, icky stuff on my legs. It's never been here before. It's the algae. Again, I don't know. The specialist can help us where that came from. I don't know. And the drinking water. I mean, come on. It's the people's drinking water. Your guys' drinking water. The food. The hay. Nobody's telling them what's getting this. I started to collect all the charts. I worked on this until about 1:30 last night and thought, you know, they're there. They're public. Amy pointed that out. This isn't our job. Come on, let's all work together and just get it stopped. When I was collecting signatures, I had a small child. I asked, I was telling his mom and we explained what's going on. And that little boy looked at me and said, why would anybody do that? I don't know. I guess because we don't know what else to do, but it's really not okay to kill the river. How many other rivers are in trouble now? The Columbia, Oregon's suing Monsanto for their fertilizer. I've talked to the city of Toledo, and then the last time Cindy George is not here, but she talked about cross-contamination in their sewage. Now, I don't know if this is true, and this is not my expertise, but come on, is that being checked? Maybe somebody could ask them.
We will.
As John pointed out, they're not measuring, and this is up to the farmers. And if you really look at the regulations, if you get down to the farmers' regulations, I do believe it's probably supposed to be more like 200 feet. So, they're not supposed to do in high times of precipitation, not supposed to have that cattle on there for 30 days. They have lots of rules, but it's up to the honesty of the farmer to do them because nobody watches. So when next time I see the sewage on the road and I have a concern that, maybe we have children out there, guess what? He's right next to Moonshine Park. And they walk on the road. You know what kids like to do? They like to walk barefoot. So when I see these biosolids on the road, I report it to the DEQ because that's what I did, but that didn't solve the immediate problem. Or our tourism, the tourists going to Moonshine. Maybe, should I call the sheriff? I mean, who should come clean up these biosolids so a child and animal doesn't walk through them? Anybody? I don't know. Yeah.
The cities are the ones that are spreading it.
Right, but the cities are the ones spreading, but it's a county road. Yeah, so I get confused too, so. And this, I guess, we can't undo what's been done. I mean, the wrong is done, it's happened, it's there. We have to move forward. And there's grants. And did I hear Newport already has a machine, has the incinerator? Is that what I heard? Well,
Not an incinerator.
It's process. Is it something that, the other cities can share? I'm not the expertise in this, like, by any means, but can we share? Can we think of another way? In the meantime, cities, I guess the cities are responsible for this. Maybe they should look at within their own city boundaries. So I know you said that, that you can't do anything, but for a second time.
No, we didn't say we can't.
We don't think, okay, I correct myself. I'm sorry.
No, I just think it's important to understand that
Yes.
we're doing what we can.
I understand that.
I don't mean to correct you. I don't want there to be a bad perception that
Right.
we can't do anything. We are
can't do
doing
anything.
what we can.
And I don't know. I hear that you can, And then the unawareness and, there's a lot of people on the county and cities on this board and have been through the years, and John's been on this board. Is on the board?
The TMDL thing?
TMDL, right. I realized when I asked you the questions, I called you and Roy, I wasn't aware of this information, so I only asked for permission, that's all you answered me on.
Kayleen, can I ask you
So-
to kind of wrap it up on?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, given all that and the community response and the safety and welfare for all the people in our community and the tourists that like to visit, budget item, if I could do one more budget item. Right across from the logs and storage, have you seen what the road is dropping? County Road Department, well, last year I finally wrote an email to them and then the next day they fixed it, but it had dropped, about this far. It's doing it again. Those trucks.
By the church.
Yeah, right by the church. The trucks are taking a toll on that road. So this is our second submittal of a formal request for the immediate cease and desist of all distributing of biosolids in and around the SILETZ River and surrounding watershed. Now, with the inclusion of the attached addendums and additional evidence presented today by our neighbors, friends, and also in hard copy here, presenting the proven and devastating impact caused by the applications of the treated sewage biosolids on the farmlands along the SILETZ River and all those that rely on it. Addendum supporting and showing further community support, signature pages, and again the outpour on Facebook. I had a technical difficulty. I also had a page where people were coming in, they were adding their names, and I had a lot of names, so I couldn't get that to print this morning. Additional information of the county, state, city awareness, It's not like they aren't aware that they were working on doing something. Local stakeholder advisory committee, I discussed that. And the fact that, so I'll just read it. These updates committees related from items online under different names dating back to 2009. They did not meet for 2 years and reconvened in 2011. The committee has postponed to make timeline on the TMDLs. Total maximum daily load. Took me a while for that one. For the river, for years. In the meantime, many agencies are doing tests. There are lots of tests out there. And they show the dangers. EPA, DEQ, state, county agencies are aware of the dangers. And yet, for years, they continue to count millions of gallons of this treated biosolids on these fields.
Can you try to wrap it up, please?
And they never, any of the permits never expire. So again, for the health and safety of the community and all living creatures that rely on it, we the people ask you, the commissioners, or whomever has the power, to demand and cease and desist in spreading the biosolids on the farmlands of the SILETZ River. Please. Please.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if I might, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you gentlemen for listening to us today on our concerns and for whatever help you can give us, because we haven't got any help from any place else. Thank you.
Thank you. That enhanced the frustration.
I have one other thing. I did some research and noticed that once a river has been polluted, it takes years and years and it might never ever come back. So odds of this that's coming back not really good if we don't stop this.
Well, we have lots of questions for DEQ. We will be getting representatives of DEQ, and I think that one of the most important ones is David Bayet, who is the Western Region Administrator for DEQ, so he would be one of the top guys. We'll continue to ask questions about enforcement. Certainly the issue of penalties is something that we can try to address. As I said, have been working with Representative Gomberg, and we'll have him continue to keep him involved. And of course, he's important because as a member of the House, he's the one that is part of the process that sets the budget for DEQ. And we'll continue to look at some of the legal aspects. And again, we hear you loud and clear, and I think the cities have some better ability maybe to address these issues more rapidly than we can because of the way the laws are structured and their role in it. So we hear you loud and clear.
Okay, additional information, this spreading, the time period, and I could be wrong on this, but I do believe in there, somewhere in all their writing in the rules, is between April and October.
We'll find out.
So I'm gonna,
So I want to give you this stuff.
Hold on. Janet, will you get the information from the different people so we get copies of it? I'll let Commissioner Thompson speak, and then I'll recognize the gentleman in the back.
Okay, my name's Ron Ballou, and I live in the lower SILETZ.
Please come
Lower
forward.
SILETZ River. My name's Ron Ballou, and I live in the lower SILETZ River. And unfortunately, my concern is biosolids flow downriver, so, you know, it's gonna get there someday. But anyway, there's a couple of things. I know you have concerns on what your control is, you know, what you have the ability to do and whatever. As Mr. Thompson said earlier, you know, one of the things I'm concerned with immediately is the 50-foot rule, you know, going close to the river. If you were to allow me to put a well in, you would only allow me to put a well 200 feet from my septic or whatever. It seems to me like you should have that control to have that setback moved to that 200 foot of a water source. The SILETZ River is a water source. So that could probably be addressed immediately, I would think. The other thing is, what controls the application rate? Is the application rate controlled by the monitoring, or is the monitoring controlled by the application rate? You have to look at both sides. You know, what controls that? If the application rate is X tons and requires that amount of monitoring, if you can't supply that monitoring, then you can't have that application rate, and vice versa. The third thing is, what is the high water level in that area? Flooding occurs on the SILETZ. I don't know what it is up there, but I know it's a big impact downriver where I live. So that 50-foot mark or that 200-foot mark has got to be based on that high water level, not on the low water level. So I don't know. If it floods, it all goes in the river. If it doesn't, that's a different story. So there are some things I think we can address as a county immediately, because we do have some control. Not a lot maybe, but we do have some at this point. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. We'll continue to work on that.
So,
Any other, go, Commissioner Thompson, or?
so you keep mentioning Gomberg, but Arnie Roland's our senator and has been at this for longer, and I worked with him clear back in watershed councils and things like this. And the Oregon Salmon Plan is nothing more than a clean water bill. And this is an example. I don't know how this fell through the cracks at this level and hasn't been picked up, but you guys talking about the SILETZ watershed, that's your problem. But if you're going to fix it, you're going to have to try to fix it statewide, because I'm sure there's other watersheds too. You can't just have them save your watershed and then move on to another one. This is a big challenge, and it's not going to be easy. But I've been involved in this my whole life, and I'm impressed by your compelling evidence. But when you go to take this forward, you're going to have to boil it down to a few items, and you have to target the items rather than going at such a broad-based approach. I appreciate the fact that in order to be effective in the legislature, or to go where this is going to have to go, we have to boil it down to a few specific items, and then also bring up what we've mentioned before, is how do you correct it? I mean, it's got to be correctable. And this is just a start on a process of a long process, but I'm amazed at the testimony that you guys have brought forward
Very
here.
impressive.
Could I ask a question to Mr. Belmont?
Sure.
Could we do a little more research into that county in Washington State that did
Well, and again-
establish the local ban? And
Yeah.
my research, they passed it in 2011. The State Court of Appeals overturned it in 2014, 3-year
They
period.
did, and what they had was an
But-
intermediary step in which a inferior court, now a challenge, upheld the injunction.
Right.
My opinion is you'd never get the court here to do that. But that being said, there may be some other legal things we could do. We've talked about it. I really appreciate it. I'll tell you this. The information, and I will be asking for more information about the non-compliance with the laws that exist now. That is a different basis on which we might be able to do
Enforcement issue.
So that actually gives us some other tools, different kinds of tools. So for the folks that have been providing that information, I really appreciate it. If you want to, inundate me with that, and especially we're looking for factual stuff, that if you've got evidence that said that they were to apply, within 200 feet and they applied it within 100 feet. The evidence that it being out on a road, spilling out on a road, the very specific, the more specific and better information.
We have evidence if you go to SILETZ River.
Okay.
I'll send you the link.
But send me the link, and then John, you had some information in there. Then I may be coming back to talk to you about that, because there's where there may be some tools we have, because they're not complying with the existing law. Then there may be some things we can do. So,
And Wayne,
different strategy.
if we can show that non-compliance, then we have a chance to go to the legislature, who does have the authority to create the penalties so that they will comply with the regulations. There's several steps we've got to do here to make this thing work.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Well, we don't want them to comply, we want them to stop, because you're endangering the coho salmon. And that is, that's against the federal laws. And that's a big one.
If we can prove that they're not doing it right.
That may give us more leverage. Information.
We need to work together and get something so we can solve this waste, or it don't hurt the environment. I mean, that's what I think everybody wants.
Yeah,
I
don't think
We
this
just
is
don't want it
our
on our
problem.
field. And it's all, like you said, it's Oregon, it's
We
a
hear
nation's
you.
problem.
We hear you.
Yeah, this is what Terry said, and I thank you, Terry. But it's not just our problem. I mean, it's the county, it's all our water.
Well, it's statewide.
Yeah.
It's a statewide problem.
It's, it's worldwide.
Actually, it's a
All
nation
right.
problem.
Any last comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We can write letters to our representatives till we're blue in the face, but what we need is somebody with some political clout, like you.
We've already indicated we're talking to those people.
That's what I want, some
We'll
assurance.
continue to do so, and you've provided us with good evidence to help the cause.
I've spent 22 years working on exactly these kinds of issues.
So again, I'm not trying to cut you off, but I think we've heard from everybody. We hear you loud and clear, and we're going to be moving forward as best we can on trying to correct the issue. Okay?
Mr. Chair.
All right.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, we'll move on, Commissioner
Well,
reports.
no, one more thing on this subject. if I could.
Yes, sure.
If we could ask Mr. Belmont if he thinks that a more stringent local setback requirement would be legally defensible at very least. Again, there's still the enforcement question,
Yeah.
but at least to make that as a statement on the record.
Well,
to adopt.
you're too quick.
Yeah.
You gotta get the state in here, and
Yeah.
get their
We
side
need
of testimony.
Yes.
Okay,
But
Amy?
I'd like to think about that.
Here's a little information about the setback. The DEU claims to have a 200-foot setback.
No, actually, I think the administrative rule says 200 feet from a water source, but 50 feet from a waterway. That's in the administrative rules.
We need to get DEQ in here and
Yeah.
find out.
Figure that out.
Yep, we need to find out. All right, anything else? All right, I'll move forward to Commissioner reports.
I'm gonna pass this time.
I'll just mention a couple of things very briefly, Mr. Chair. I was in Salem first thing yesterday morning for an appearance at the Senate Rules Committee, and I have been appointed to the State Housing Council, so very honored to have that opportunity to continue my advocacy locally and statewide on increasing our housing supply. I'll be back there tomorrow. The Council of State Governments is convening a behavioral health criminal justice forum and trying to promote. There's teams from every county that have been invited. I'm part of the Lincoln County team and trying to promote a lot of the principles and aims of the Stepping Up initiative to get better cooperation at the state level on trying to steer people away from the justice system and toward treatment.
Okay. I'll just quickly report, I attended the forest and farm tour yesterday, and it was interesting to see new technology where they're cutting to length is the technology, and it enables harvesting of trees under circumstances which weren't available or financially feasible until the new technology. So with that, again, we've already done constituent input. Thank you all for your patience. Thank you for your comments, and we've got some tough questions we'll be asking DEQ and other representatives and working with you to try to address, correct the errors and enforce the rules. So anything else?
I have one question. When would we know this? At the next meeting?
We'll publicize when DEQ is here. It'll be part of the agenda, and we'll make sure there's a press release that lets people know. We may try
I'm sure all of us
to,
want to be back to find out.
Yeah, we'd like to.
We'll get them here as soon as they're available. I
we'll get
assume.
them, yep, as soon as we can, and we'll make sure that we publicize that agenda as we do all. And
Just one, is there any more materials anybody has today they want us to have a copy of? We can do some copy.
Can I meet with you and show you?
Yeah, would you want to just, in fact, if you want to just go out the door and through this door, Janet will help you.
Okay.
And try and make copies of those. That'd be great.
all right.
Let's go this way. Go ahead and go this way. Go left and then immediate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Left and immediate left.
Appreciate everybody coming forward. And let's see, we have no executive session. The next meeting of the Board of Commissioners will be Wednesday, May 30th at 8:30 a.m. right here in the Board of Commissioners room. There is also a county budget committee meeting tonight in Toledo. It was originally to be held in the City Hall, but it's been moved across the street to the Council of Government meeting. That'll be the third meeting of the County Budget Committee, and it'll be at 6 o'clock in Toledo. So that's tonight. Next board meeting a week from today. With that, we're adjourned.